Why didn't you go to the diner today?
Well, I don't know. I made eggs for my parents and my kids.
Yeah, but the diner would have been quite a treat for everyone.
Yeah, maybe we'll go.
No, breakfast only. Breakfast for lunch. I refuse to call it brunch.
Oh.
I will never call it brunch, even if I go out to something that would be considered brunch.
No?
No, I'm going to breakfast.
Only Linners for you.
No, none of those. None of those stupid combos. Dunch. You ever hear dunch? You hear people use dunch?
No, what's dunch? Dinner and lunch?
Dunch sounds like a person who took this big, goopy crap on the sidewalk. That's what that sounds like to me.
He took a dunch.
Yeah, that's what. I'm going to dunch.
He really dunched up the toilet.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And people just throw this word around.
No, nobody says dunch.
Haphazardly. It's a real thing. Look it up.
Linner is the way to go.
No, people call it dunch, or at least I knew of a place, but I can't remember what that place was because I rightly blocked it from my mind. There's a place that served dunch. A big, goopy ball of dunch.
How about some like weird combination of like dinch?
No. How about no combination?
How
of
about
these
dinch?
things? No.
Dinch is good.
No.
How about
No. What's the point?
What about lynch?
What food are you?
You can't call it lynch.
What food are you eating?
With an I, not a Y.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that because I was just automatically dismissing whatever you said, so I wasn't actually even listening to you.
Oh, cool.
And then you
That's
said,
really cool of you.
well, because I said no, and you didn't respect that boundary. I said a no boundary. I didn't want any combination of any of these different meals, and you just kept going.
Wow.
So you can say,
sorry.
you can say that I am a jerk for not listening. I listened to you during other conversations.
Do you?
But I think that in this case, I was allowed not to listen, and therefore I didn't hear that you said something would be very offensive to many people.
Sure.
It didn't even register.
Wow. That's how dedicated you are to not squishing these words together.
Well, as you know, I like to squish a lot of words together. Like Genuine Deli is the bodega near me, and I call it Gendel. Actually, that's the only thing I do it with, I think, is delis.
Right.
And I do it with a lot of
Just delis, just
things.
New York delis.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true because on Papa John's, you call it PPJs.
Yeah, because it's pizza Papa John's.
Pizza Papa John.
If you look at the sign, the pizza's at top, and I just like saying PPJs because it starts making fun of the people. It starts out as making fun of the people who would do such a thing, and then it actually works its way in, and it's real.
Yeah. I've done that. I've like said, cool things that are, the cool kids are saying. I've said them as a joke, and then I start using them.
I think that's how all of this slang works.
Yeah.
Some people are using it, then other people come in and mock it, and they're using it in that manner, but then it just works its way into everyone's vernacular. Except, I refuse to say, look, if you're going out and you're having a meal just because it's past 11 a.m., if it's eggs, if it's pancakes, flapjacks, you're having breakfast. You don't need to call it brunch. And I understand that brunch is...
Yeah, brunch is way more than just having breakfast at lunch.
Well,
it's a culture.
Yeah, it's a social event.
Yeah.
Bottomless samosas. I want a Bloody Mary with a hamburger attached to it.
So...
And a pickle. And banana peppers.
So it's the culture.
And olives and limes.
It's the culture that I'm rebelling against. I guess not necessarily the combination, but the kind of people who would call it linner or spherical steaming dunch.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
What is something that if
a newspaper with blood all over it?
What's black butt and red all over? What's something that you do that you may look at someone else doing that thing and judge it as harshly as you might judge someone who is really into brunching?
Living.
Living?
Yeah. I judge most people for just living and existing.
But then it's hard because you then live and exist.
Yeah. I mean, of course, most of these things are Well, they're not all projections because I don't enjoy brunch. I don't enjoy anything about brunch. So I'm not hating on myself because I really secretly enjoy brunch.
Oh, yeah. Well, who doesn't love a breakfast at a leisurely time?
I don't care what time you eat it.
No, I'm agreeing with you that who doesn't like that? But what you don't like is the spectacle over like, we're brunching. Want to come brunch with us? We're brunching.
Yeah, and the fact that it has become such a thing that there are lines for it. People
I had
wait.
a 14-hour brunch yesterday. I'm wasted.
Well, those bottomless mimosas, they phased a lot of those out for that reason. They would put time limits on them, actually. I think they still exist, but it's like all the mimosas you can drink for $16.99, 2 hours.
I love mimosas. Absolutely love. I was really into champagne for a while.
So was I. I would just drink Cooks straight out of the bottle.
So sweet. Delicious.
When I lived on 1660 Peachtree Street when I was 22, and I would look at MySpace until 3 a.m. drunk out of my mind.
We should have been friends back then. Oh, wait, we were.
Yeah, I don't know where you were, though.
Yeah, I don't either. When was this? I was around. I was at your Peachtree apartment.
2004?
Yeah, I was definitely around.
Hey, where were you living at that point?
It's hard to say. Vinings? Smyrna?
That's where Julia Roberts is from.
Wow.
Smyrna.
Weirdo brother.
She's embarrassed by it and never comes up.
Yeah, because he's a weirdo.
Well, I meant Smyrna.
Oh, Smyrna.
Maybe the brother, too. What's up with the brother? I don't know anything about the brother.
I forget. I think there's some drug abuse.
Well, that's what makes him a weirdo?
No. Also,
Wow.
just like a weirdo. Turn it on.
You're the problem. You're the reason people who are addicted to drugs don't come out, because you just said, oh, he's a real weirdo. There are things wrong with him. And then I ask you what it is, and he's like, I think he used drugs.
Well, listen, I would have prepared myself. What's his name? Robert Roberts?
No, that's that guy's the bassist for Clive Cliverson
Oh, my bad. Eric Roberts.
on the other radio show. Rob
Just
Roberts.
look at him. He's a weirdo.
What's his name?
Eric Roberts.
What does he do?
I don't remember what he did.
King of Gypsies? This guy's famous.
No, Julia Roberts' brother. He's not the king of gypsies. Oh, wait. Yes, he is.
Yeah, when you talking, this guy has his own successful career. He's not a bum.
He's successful. I didn't say he was a bum.
She shouldn't be ashamed of him at all.
I forget.
Yeah, this guy's in the Batman
Why?
films. The Nolan
Yes.
Batman films.
Hold on.
I never even knew. I had no clue that this guy was that guy.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
That guy was this guy.
This guy's that guy.
He looks perfectly fine. He looks cool.
I know. I'm telling you. Listen, this was before. He was a weirdo. I cannot remember. Fortunately, he wasn't always like that. 1991, Eric became a father. His girlfriend, Kelly Cunningham, gave birth to their daughter, Emma, who turned out to be a very promising actress. Okay. Unfortunately, at the time, Eric's life wasn't the easiest. A few years before the birth of the daughter, he was addicted to drugs and alcohol, which is why he also repeatedly brought to justice. Kelly decided to leave her rowdy partner, and Julia unexpectedly took her side and even helped her seek sole custody. Julia severed her relationship with her brother in the early 90s. It was believed that the reason was his addiction and behavioral problems associated with him, including aggression. Why Eric was addicted to banned substances is still in question. What a stupid thing to say.
All right, so it was just drug use, and the way you just threw him to the curb, and everyone else did. Look, she had to distance herself for whatever reason. If he's abusive, if he's aggressive, then sure, you can't deal with it anymore. But that's all the public knows. Like, that guy's fucked.
Well, he was in an accident, and he had neurological damage.
And it's not even his fault then.
Listen,
He's a faulty computer.
Yeah.
Short-circuiting.
Didn't I say at the beginning of this that he's an interesting person, but a drug addict? That was
I don't think you said that at all.
I really did feel that.
Short
I
circuiting.
shouldn't say it.
Neurological condition, short circuiting. That would be my defense if I ever
Yeah.
went to court for whatever.
I short-circuited.
I did wake up once at 3 a.m. on the couch, and I was angry that I was on the couch, and I took a frying pan and hit myself in the head. So I would incite that incident as.
Why would you do that?
I was. How dare I fall asleep in my
You were
clothes
8.
on the couch?
You were 8 though at the time. So.
Yeah, 38.
Oh,
I wasn't
Wait.
38. I was probably 35.
what was going on in your life that's something that seemed to make sense?
I don't know. We can explore that in a different episode.
All right, let's get started.
One topic: Greg hits himself in the head with a frying pan.
What's wrong with Greg? And then the next episode, what's right with Autumn? Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
My name is Greg Russ. I think it's my week. Is
Yeah,
it?
I was gonna say I don't know whose week it is.
I think it's my week.
All right.
But the topic's gonna pertain to your week. So I think that's why
Okay.
it gets confusing. We're just
Yeah.
jumping straight into it. I wanted to bring up grandparents for this week's topic because your parents are in town.
Yeah.
And, it was my dad's birthday the other day, and I got pictures, and he's a grandparent, and my nephew's sitting on his lap. And I was just thinking about grandparents, and I thought, let's make that the topic. Grandparents.
Cool.
When parents get a redo, when they get a chance to make up for all the fucked up things they did when they were parents.
Yeah. The dudes have less circulating testosterone. Maybe they don't get as angry. The women don't have as much responsibility, or at least the burden is off of them for, rearing this child. They just kind of get to do the fun parts.
Hold on, going back to now we're on parents for a second, but the testosterone and you're implying some aggressive nature here. With what have you experienced? Where does this come from?
I didn't experience any aggression, but I mean, I know some of my an uncle in particular who has since passed away, R.I.P. But when I was younger, and he, I guess, obviously was younger, that he was, pretty annoyed by all the cousins and his own kids. Of course, he loved them, but he also was like,
Did he?
pretty tough.
Hold on.
Yeah, of course.
Did he?
But he was tough.
I always love the way people have to but he loved them. He was nasty. He was tough. He was maybe a bit abusive. I don't know physically. I don't know about him, but this is a generalized thing. He was a bit abusive too. He spanked them and emotionally screamed at them, but he loved them. He really just loved them.
Okay, listen, I wouldn't be talking about it if it had gone too far. I wouldn't bring it up as something, but I mean, he had 5 kids, so he couldn't have hated kids that much. But he just
I guaranteed
seemed like,
he hated kids. I don't know, because he just wanted to have sex and it just kept happening. No one sets out to have 5 kids. Oh, well, some people do.
Listen, I don't know. I don't know
Mormons.
maybe some people do, but I don't know the situation. Whatever it is, I remember him being like pretty mean, the mean uncle. And then as he got older, he started to get way more relaxed. And then he was a totally different man around the grandkids.
Because the
Still
tea
not
dropped.
like the warmest man ever or anything, but he still was just totally different. And that's what happens as you get older. You have less circulating testosterone to like make kind of eases up your temper probably.
I'm not denying that maybe that has something to do with it. People do tend to calm down, and the big T certainly makes people aggressive.
Yeah.
I just 5 kids. It's like, I would lose my mind too. You lose your
The
autonomy.
last 2 were twins.
You lose your autonomy with 1 kid. But why? Yeah. It's still a choice. It's still a choice.
But he was, the husband, and he had a high-paying profession. So I think that he worked. He was working.
Yeah, well,
and so that's where he felt his responsibility was, and
his wife's responsibility was in the home. And let's give her more work. As my workload increases, as I advance my career, her career should also advance. Here's another kid.
Listen, this is your experience of that. who knows what their experience
No, I don't know them
I
at
don't
all.
know.
So it's not fair to put any of that on them. When
No.
you bring up your uncle, I'm just speaking then generalized. I'm taking him and just using him as a vehicle to speak
Okay.
in these umbrella statements. I have no clue who he was. I listened to you, unlike the pre-show where I didn't listen to you. So
No.
I would believe you. Just kidding. I'll tell you what the truth is, and I'll tell you what to think and what you feel.
Okay.
That's my new approach. All right, so
Thanks.
getting
Love
back
that.
to grandparents, I was just thinking of the role, and my dad, when I was growing up, he was working, and he wasn't around a lot. He worked strange hours. He would leave the house at 4 a.m. He would get back at 6 p.m. Even with that, he was present in my life, and he was around, and he coached the soccer team when I was a kid. And when I played soccer in high school, for example, he would make it to every game, even away games. So he wasn't absent, but he's absent quite a bit because of work. And, when he had his retirement a few years ago, and I went to that, and everyone at work celebrating him, and, everyone seemed to genuinely like him. And then he called me up and started crying and thanked me. The rest of my family wasn't there yet, but he did the same thing later. Thanked me for putting up with him being at work all the time.
Oh.
And now, so because that's in his head, he's constantly around. Because my sister lives not far. Well, here's the thing: my sister lives in the same neighborhood as my parents, but I swear to God, it's a 20-minute drive. From my
Why
parents'
is it
house.
so far? Why is it so far in the same? What kind of suburban sprawl kind of neighborhood that is?
It's the definition of it. Suburban sprawl is defined by Bridge Mill in Canton, Georgia. It is the epitome of it. It's like, we live in the same neighborhood. It's like, yeah, it takes 15 to 20 minutes. My mom insists it's 12 minutes. I don't know. Maybe it's
12 minutes in the same neighborhood is still long.
In a car. Yeah.
In a car.
Okay, and you factor in neighborhood speeds at 25 miles per hour, which nobody goes. People at least go 35.
No, if you're going a decent, not too fast and not the actual 15 miles an hour speed limit, then yeah, it still takes too long to get there.
So because
But anyway, so what's your dad doing?
Well, because they live in the same neighborhood, both my parents. And look, my mom didn't work, and she was around growing up, and she was a good mom, despite her anxiety, which she instilled into me.
And she insists that
doesn't exist. Both of them are highly involved. Well, for my mom, I think it makes more sense as a grandmother. If we were joking as it being a career, but it is. It was it's a lot of work. 3 kids and maintaining the home, whatever you want to say about.
You're talking about you and your siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about that dynamic. It's a different argument. If it's an outdated, archaic dynamic, sure, but that goes away, and then you have the opportunity to do it again. As you're getting older, maybe it offsets some of that. But I feel as though my dad, and maybe this applies to a lot of grandparents, not all of them, because his parents were totally different, which we can get into. But yeah, he's around and involved constantly, and part of it, I'm sure he actually enjoys it. But part of me thinks, I wonder if he's been thinking about he wasn't around a lot, and now he's trying to make up for it.
It could be that. It could be that because he's retired, that he's bored.
Yeah, he certainly is bored because he has a
He's
pathological.
fill my time. Fill my time with something.
He's a pathological need to do something at all times.
I'm finding how that is where I when I don't have enough to do, I start to get a little weird and spirally.
You do. You go insane
Yeah.
when you don't have anything to do.
Yeah, it's not
You
okay.
get weepy.
Yeah. And I get I guess depressed.
I think you need to, now we're off topic again, but I think you need to spend 3 weeks alone and learn to become okay with it.
No, I would come out as after that weird German sleep deprivation experiment, that stupid picture of that person. They look like an alien with the teeth. That's what I would look like.
You need to put yourself, it's I'm scared of spiders, and then you get into a coffin and they put spiders all over you.
Okay. You're talking about exposure therapy?
Yeah. And so,
Coffin.
I was thinking of a box that a person would get into.
Okay.
It makes the most sense, doesn't it?
The coffin has nothing to do with the spiders. This is just a box we have for you.
I mean, it's easier to get a hold of a coffin than a plexiglass box or something. This isn't Fear Factor.
You have to call the producers from Fear Factor, the prop people there.
They kept plexiglass in business, them and the NHL for quite a while.
Yeah.
And now plexiglass is fallen off because there's no TV production, and I guess the NHL is going back on, so whatever. I was going to say it was shut down, but it's not.
Did your grandparents like hockey?
But ow, I did it.
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't say.
So your dad, he's
No,
maybe...
No, that's the end of that thought. I was just thinking, as grandparents and the role that it plays in people's lives. And, they were certainly pushing. And I told them early on, I'm the oldest. I'm like, you're not getting grandkids from me. So not anytime soon, at least.
Yeah.
So leave me alone. And then they moved to my sister. And she's given them 2 now.
Do you think that she felt pressured?
No, it's exactly.
Or was that her? She just liked that.
Anyone who has a kid because their parents are pressuring them is an idiot. Anyone who has a kid because society is pressuring them. I'm not saying that was her
sole reason behind it, but I'm saying, do you think that they pressured her?
No, because she still waited until she was 31 or something.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't think is old, but traditionally, it's like
do you
old
think
maid.
Your parents, yeah, that's true.
Spinster.
She works at the library.
Do you think that your parents are different with the grandkids than maybe you saw them with you and your siblings?
Well, here's the other thing. When you're parents, you actually have to be a parent. You don't get to be the friend, which is a part of the problem, I think, today. All these people, it's like, I just want to be liked by everyone, including my own kids. I can't handle it if nobody, or if somebody doesn't like me. If they don't like me, it's very difficult for me. So their kids, they want to be their pal. We're going to run around and we're friends and we'll talk about everything openly and honestly, and we're going to sit together and do each other's nails.
Okay, wait a minute. Some of those things are fine.
What? Speaking
Having
openly?
Openly and honestly and doing each other's nails. That's
but openly and honestly,
enmeshment or anything.
Openly and honestly, sometimes kids don't want to talk to their parents about certain things, like maybe sex. It'd be nice if you could go to your parents and talk to them about sex, but you don't want to do it. And any parent who's pushing to talk about sex with their kids, other than here is where kids come from, instead of lying to them, telling them the truth that it is sex, and then teaching them to be safe with it. Outside of that, any parent who wants the details of their kid's sex life, there is something wrong with it, and you shouldn't want. I'm just their pal, and we'll talk about this. Oh, Brandon wasn't nice to you. He had sex with you and then stopped talking to you. Get out of here. That's what friends are for.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, is not allowing your child to individuate from you, and that starts early on, where it's like, you don't let them do certain things because you're like, no, I do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'll make their sandwich even if they're totally capable of doing it.
Yeah,
or
and
it's little tiny ways. But then, as they get older, maybe you don't see them as an individual who doesn't want to talk to you about something.
So one of the joys, though, I think, of if you parent correctly, where you're not the friend, one of the joys of being a grandparent is, all right, that's someone else's job now. That's my kid's job. Now I can just be the fun, nice person.
Yeah.
Who just,
a little candy before dinner?
Yeah.
Don't tell your mommy.
And then the kid always tells the mom, because
look what grandma gave me.
Can't keep secrets.
Damn it, shut up.
Yeah, so the part of that's at play too, I think, with my parents, and they seem happy, and I'm not opposed to any of it. But with your parents being in town, and I know that it's a help always when they're around.
Yes.
And I was just
it's great.
Curious as to what the dynamic there is like.
Well, my relationship with them, I guess, is more of the parenting show, but their relationship with the kids, my mom is, it's funny. I see the way that she behaves with the kids, or if they do something wrong and they need to be disciplined, or punished in some way. She looks at me with worried eyes, like, oh, isn't it okay if they don't want to? I'm like, no. They're not allowed to do that. Get the fuck out of here, And I wonder if she did that to me growing up. Oh, Autumn didn't mean it. She didn't mean to, do this or that. And I wonder if that has affected me in some way. But like I said, that's the parenting thing. So I'm trying to see them as grandparents. My dad is pretty Like, I'll be here. I'll be here. I'm here. I'll talk with the kids and we'll laugh and I'll do he does little magic tricks for them but he mostly just wants to like chill. But he's also 73.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to chill at that age?
Yeah, he doesn't want to do a ton. But my mom is like on the floor with them, playing, showing them her iPad games. And then the kids are asking to download those games, even though they're stupid, like bubble shooter games and stuff, and not educational in any way, which of course is fine. But I'm just saying she's that. And yeah, my dad wants to give them little treats, like he bought them a Twinkie today at the grocery store for them. Yeah, they play with them, but it's not. I think that it's a lot like when I was growing up. I don't feel like they're doing anything different.
I'm thinking about the first people I ever got excited about knowing I was going to see, and I feel like that was my grandparents too.
Yeah.
Which was always cool. It's a cool thing to be so excited that someone's just coming. Even if it does mean I know I'm going to get spoiled by them and get, I can ask for things. Outside of that, like, there was an excitement to see them. It wasn't just completely, I'm going to benefit with candy or toys.
So my mom was really worried about being the long distance grandmother. She really didn't want to do that. She felt like that was going to hinder her relationship with the kids. And I had to like shake her almost and be like, it doesn't matter. The kids are going to love the shit out of you because you're a grandma. It doesn't matter how far away you live. Like I said, I loved my grandparents and we lived in Georgia and they were up in Maryland. And I didn't think like, oh, I don't really know grandma that well. It wasn't like that. It was amazing. I loved going to see them and to be there at their house.
Well, that was the thing with my mom's parents who lived in Philadelphia. And I love Philadelphia. And some of that, I think, is tied to just going up there when I was a kid. The excitement of that and then getting to that city. I also like it for other reasons because I think it's a cool city that's underrated and overlooked. And so be it. Yeah, it's close to New York. And then you have Boston up that way, too, up this way. Mm-hmm. And people just skip over Philadelphia. So whatever. But, they lived in Philadelphia. My dad's parents also lived in Philadelphia, but they moved to Georgia close to us. I feel like 1990. Oh boy, I don't even know. 2, 3.
Okay.
And I wasn't as close to them. They were the closer grandparents. And yeah, the long distance thing didn't matter as much, even though my mom's parents made a real effort to come visit. Every Christmas they would come down.
Yeah.
But they were certainly the grandparents I was closer to. And I wonder if it's always a dynamic, if there's one set that you prefer over the other.
See, I didn't really have a chance to favor one or the other because I never met my grandfathers. Both of them had died before I was born. And my dad's mom died when I was 5 or 6. And then I mostly just grew up with my mom's mom, who died in 96.
So you only had really one grandparent around for a little bit of time.
I really remember my dad's mom. There were a lot of like, I don't know why, but I just really connect with her for some reason. But yeah, the one that I grew up with, not with, because she was also still far away, but still like the one that I grew up with was, 96. So how old are you? How old are you in 96?
14.
14? Yeah.
Yeah, my grandparents, I guess, all of them, the last one just died in May. And the first one didn't die until 2014 in June. So I was 32 at that point. So I didn't have a death of a grandparent until I was 32. Although the grandparents for me were my first introduction to the thought of death. Well, it was where I focused a lot of my anxiety about death. I'm like, they're the oldest people I know. They're going to be the first ones to go probably. And then I remember as a kid thinking and having dreams often about, one of them, both of them on one side, all of them dying. So yeah, that was also, thinking I really like them, but I'm glad I'm not old like them.
Right.
And then how it must be so strange to just be old and worry about dying constantly. These are my thoughts in middle school, especially. I remember for some reason walking to a class, and I don't know if I was supposed to see my grandmother that day or something, but it was on top of my mind. And I was like, she's old. I'm glad I'm not that age. And those are my thoughts. And also, building on what I said before, when you're a kid, I think you can sense if someone's interested in you or not.
Right.
They're somewhat, I don't want to say that my dad's parents were indifferent, but they weren't as engaging and they didn't seem as interested. And I think that's maybe why I didn't take to them as much as my mom's parents. And I can't name a specific example. Nothing happened.
Right.
There wasn't an event or an incident.
They just weren't as maybe enthusiastic.
No, and look, they did their own thing. Once they retired, they would go to Tucson, Arizona for months out of the year in the winter. And fine, whatever. They lived hard lives where, my grandmother was half Jewish during World War II in Berlin, had to hide with forged papers. And
what happens if you're half Jewish back then?
You're not pure.
Okay.
Just as bad.
You're still Jewish?
Yeah, just as
bad.
bad.
How come you couldn't pretend that you weren't Jewish?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think at first, maybe if you knew what was going on, you could. Well, I don't know what the records were and how they were able to tell. But
is it just because of the names?
A lot of those names, actually, from what I remember reading, is things like Goldwater.
Yeah.
Is like slang, a nasty slang for like piss.
Oh, really?
Which is like last names were given by Germany. I think a lot of times maybe they didn't have last names, but these names were assigned quite often.
Okay.
So a lot of them are derogatory, or that's why it's like, silver and stuff, because they're greedy and selfish. And that's why those names are there. So I don't know. I don't know how they knew for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I think a lot of people turned themselves over too, because they didn't know at first really what was up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. And then they registered because they were supposed to.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then my grandfather fought in World War II for Germany, but he was 16. I always have to bring that up. He was just near the end of the war, and he was drafted, and like, you're getting in there. It's like, okay, but soon it was over. They met each other in some boat coming over. Well, my grandmother actually was married to another American first, got divorced, went back to Germany, then was coming back to the United States and met my grandfather on the boat, and they got married 2 weeks later, and whatever. Their lives were, I can't even imagine. It was shit for quite a while.
Yeah.
And you retire, you want to deal with some bratty little grandkids, or you want to go live a life. It's like, I can't, I don't blame them. And they weren't nasty by any means. They just,
that is interesting, because I feel like as a kid, I'm thinking of, as a kid, that maybe I would think, why wouldn't they sort of put more effort into their grandkids? But then as thinking of an adult human that I am now, and thinking like, I don't have any, I mean, I have a duty to have a relationship with my grandkids, of course, but I don't have to tap dance for them. I'm an adult and they're a kid. That's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of interesting. I don't know whether it was this healthy or not, but I kind of appreciate their boundary.
Yeah, I can too.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now as a rational adult.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And even though they seem really old at that, when you're a kid, 60, let's say, it's not that old. It's like you can go around, you're mobile, you do things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go live.
My mom's running half marathons. She's 60 something.
Yeah. Go live some life.
Yeah.
And again, just to illustrate some of the trauma, I guess. And my grandmother wasn't even around for the Berlin Wall, because she had gotten out like right after the war, which I know the wall was put up when they were dividing up Germany, but she was gone and didn't have to live there. But when it came down, somehow I got a piece of it. I was in fifth grade and I got a piece of the Berlin Wall, and she was there and I showed it to her, and she's, get it away from me. Like, she hated it.
Wow.
Yeah. And as she was dying and had, dementia, both my grandmothers had dementia. So I wonder if that's going to be happening. Anyway, we can get into that joyous part of it in a little bit. She would like have flashbacks to whatever, like running from
really
authority. Yeah. So yeah, go live your life in Tucson. I'm fine with that. And then my mom's parents, I was very close to, and I enjoyed their company. And then my grandparents on my dad's side, when I got older, lived close, and I would just go visit them. I feel out of obligation, like as a teenager, and that's kind of shitty. It's like, all right, you're here. You won't understand. I don't even trust my parents to understand anything in my life.
Yeah.
You really aren't going to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go over and have to hear how my grandmother's birthday was February 1st and mine's February 2nd. And I would have to hear, we were almost born on the same day. It's like, yep, I know. Which,
you start talking to them like they're kids.
Yeah. Now who's the shitty one who's not taking much interest? The tables have turned, and now I'm not even saying they were shitty. That I'm more shitty in that situation than they ever were.
And those are the ones that lived closer that you were not as close to.
They lived like a neighborhood over.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen.
Probably less of a drive. Sorry. In a different neighborhood, less of a drive than from my parents to my sisters in the same neighborhood.
Right. I mean, when an adult doesn't, start investing in a kid, the kid is not going to grow up investing in the adult. You're going to get what you give when it comes to kids. Yeah,
and I don't know if they were offended. I don't know. Maybe they didn't care. Like, hey, here's some German cookies. Like, oh, thanks.
Auf Wiedersehen.
I'll eat these. Delicious. I mean, my grandpa on that side was very into astronomy. So, I was also. And then he had a lot of books that I could steal. I would ask. I wouldn't steal them.
Yeah.
And then I would read them. So that was cool.
My grandmother was really into doll houses. She would build doll houses, and she would, wallpaper the walls and decorate them. So her house had a bunch of doll houses in it. And then when she died, there was, of course, like fighting amongst. She had 7 kids. So there was a bunch of fighting over my aunts and uncles about like, I'm getting this one.
Were they worth something? Or
no,
are they just sentimental?
It just meant something, yeah. Just mean something.
That is such an old lady thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like crocheting. And I know that you...
And it's become like a...
Do you crochet as a crochet? You
crochet.
Crochet. You don't knit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Those kind of activities then became, I'm young and I'm going to do this. Isn't that ironic? Even though people genuinely enjoy it. Again, we were talking earlier about slang. I think it's the same way. It starts out with, I'm going to do this thing to set me apart because why would someone my age be doing this? And then, there's real enjoyment in it. But I do feel like I don't want to take away from these things. Any hobbies or activities are important. And I don't want to dismiss them. But sometimes it just seems like I started this thing because I was bored and I had no identity. So I just had to sink myself into this activity. I built doll houses, which in its own right, great. Like, I think it's a cool thing. But
yeah, and who knows? I mean, now you're talking about motivation.
Maybe I'm too cynical on that front. But it's like, why are
No, I don't think you're I think you're looking for purpose behind something.
Why were some activities associated with old age? Mm-hmm. Why were there grandmothers that did certain things? Yeah. And I guess
I'm not crocheting doilies.
Well, you should crochet too because you enjoy it. It doesn't matter.
But what I'm saying is there's a difference between like maybe an old lady part of crocheting would be like crocheting little doilies or like crocheting a skirt for a Barbie so that you could then put that over your extra roll of toilet paper on the back of your toilet, which is what my grandmother had.
It's a nice touch.
Yeah.
That toilet paper thing.
Uh-huh. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, I do remember those.
She had the fancy soaps, that were like seashells. I was never sure if I was allowed to use them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I don't know if, yes, those were prominent in my grandparents' house. I was like, is this even meant to be used?
I don't know. It kind of was dusty. It didn't seem like people used them. What'd you call your grandparents?
No, I don't want to talk about it. It's funny because that's the thing. As I got older, and if I was talking to my mom about her parents or my dad, I would just say, your mom, your dad. I stopped wanting to call them the name. They're just the standard name. So like on my mom's side, it was Pop Pop. And then Oma, which is German for grandma.
Okay.
So that's not really that outrageous. Why are you writing this down?
Pop, because I thought it was cute.
And then on the other side, it's a variation of Pop Pop. It's Poppy. Yeah. And then
I can see why you didn't want to say. Go
and
ahead.
then mom.
Mama.
At some point I got too old to say these things. And so I just stopped, even when they were alive, and I would just refrain. I think I was trying to call them like, hey.
Yeah. Mama. Where did they come from? These? Well, okay, Oma, I understand, but like, where did Poppy and Mom, and why are they different?
Well, I guess to differentiate, pop-up's common. You hear that all over the place.
True.
That was used in Arrested Development. What's his name?
Uh-huh.
The kid who plays the same character every single time.
Michael.
Yeah. I can't remember his name.
George Michael.
Yeah. What's his real name? Michael Cera.
Michael Cera.
Yeah. That was the name that they.
Pop. That's fine. Listen, I'm not judging Pop.
Oh, you judged.
Yeah. All right. I
And
judged.
you made me
Where did
say it.
Mom come from?
I have no clue. where it came
Maybe
from.
because you're the oldest. Wait, you're not the oldest cousin.
No, there's one older than me on that side.
Okay. Well, maybe somebody couldn't say grandmom, so it's like mom.
Well, it was never
Mom,
used.
Mom.
I don't think anyone ever said grandma.
Oh, okay. So I always said grandma, and I don't have a word for grandpa because
Because he was dead.
I mean we call my dad grandpa. But
yeah, I think
yeah.
that stuff's fine. Grandma, grandpa.
Peepaw.
Grandma, no. Peepaw. No.
Pawpaw.
Here I am judging now.
Meemaw. Meemaw and peepaw.
No way.
I've heard that. Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah, of course. I've heard
yeah,
them.
okay. Yeah, we grew up in the South.
The names I used were much better than those stupid redneck names.
Yeah, mom is way better than meemaw.
Don't you disgrace her.
Mom.
I mean, it's fine.
It's fine.
I just shut down at some point. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't bring myself to say this. I don't even know when it happened.
I know what you mean, because I feel like if I were even at your house, I don't know how comfortable I would be saying your parents' names to them. Like calling out. Greg? You know? I'd be like, hey. Or maybe I'd go find them so I didn't have to call out to them.
Because my dad's name, anyone doesn't know, is also Greg, but I'm not a junior, so how dare you don't attach that to me.
No, not just that, but your mom too. I don't know. I'd feel nervous.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, what is that?
And because you don't feel like an adult yet.
Yeah, I guess.
Somewhere inside you don't, because when you're a kid, you're not supposed to, or growing up in the South, you would call people by their first name, but you put a Miss or Mr. in front of it.
Yeah. Mr. Greg.
Yeah, that was a common thing.
I make the kids do that.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a thing that, kids don't address adults by their first name unless it's that way. But
yeah, you're right. I guess it feels like calling my teachers by their first name.
yeah, I think if I came across any of my teachers from elementary school and I was hanging out with them, I wouldn't call them by
Hi, Mr. Foot. I would never call him. Hi, Dale.
Yeah. That's it. They live somewhere in there.
Shout out to Mr. Foot. South Gwinnett.
It
Math
depends.
teacher.
It depends on what your relationship with the people is, and someone else's parents that lives in your brain in a spot. And you're like, no.
Parents of a peer will never be my peers. Will never be my peer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if you befriended someone
Oh, yeah.
the same age, you wouldn't care. Like the same age as your parents.
I still call my neighbor Eugene. I call him Mr. Eugene.
Oh,
Out of respect for him, I think,
aren't
because I
you
just know he's
respectful?
older. I guess so.
Yeah, but you're not really friends with that guy. You're hi, nice to see you friends.
Oh, you're right. It's not like it's not. Yeah.
My friend Paul Cavalcante, I don't say hi, Mr. Paul.
No, you're right.
Paul's almost 60.
Yeah.
Or hi, Mr. Howard.
Yeah.
You're 67. You don't call Eric.
Yeah, Mr.
Eric's 56. Mr. Eric.
Mr. Eric. Can I talk on the radio sometimes?
So my
Can you not shoot me down constantly up there? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Airing your grievances on our show.
Yeah.
On your job with the other radio show.
Oh yeah. Do you guys want to hear a Patreon where I just bitch?
My neither of my grandmothers drove.
Really? Ever?
No, they never got driver's licenses because my other grandmother, my mom's mom, was from Austria.
Uh-huh.
She grew up in Linz, Austria, which is Hitler's hometown. That's where he was
Sucks.
born. I went there to visit, which because I was over there for work in Germany. I was like, I'm going to go. There's a great aunt that I have in Austria. I was like, I'm going to go visit. So I took the train, and I liked it. I liked that town. And then she showed me the house my grandmother grew up in, and there was a church that my grandmother said she remembered the bells ringing in, so I got video of that and sent it. And apparently I made her cry because she never went back after she left for the States, after she met my GI grandfather when he was stationed over there.
That's really nice.
But no, I mean, it's not a surprise, but it's like, yeah, it's like, I know that this is Hitler's hometown, and I don't expect you to actually call that out in any way whatsoever. But when you're there, it feels like, it's like, you're just going to pretend, huh? You're just going to pretend that this isn't where he was born? Really?
Well, what are they supposed to do?
Exactly.
Walk around with a shirt that says, like,
that's what I mean.
I'm aware.
Yes, I think that's what I want. It's like, I know.
Yeah.
Which is seemingly what a lot of Germans do with World War II, just proactive. It's like, I don't agree with what happened. I was like, I would
Yes,
assume.
you said that you were hanging out with some Germans and they told you that. They like went out of their way to tell you.
Yeah, when I had a cousin, and I just call her a cousin. We're related somehow, but it's like, I don't know what the official designation is.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
And she's like a year older than us. So I went and hung out with people our age and proactively. I don't agree. It's like, you know what? By default, I'm going to tell you that I wouldn't assume that you agreed, but you can't escape that history. And obviously, I guess I wanted that going to Linz, Austria. It's like, I want you to tell me that you're embarrassed that he was born here, that you love your town because it's beautiful and I do like it, but I want you to tell me you're embarrassed.
Right.
Which,
it's like you didn't need it checked off, but you appreciated it being checked off.
And I guess at the time, during leading up to the war.
If we went to Europe right now, maybe I'd be like, yeah, I'm not down with what's happening right now. With the president and everything. Like, oh yeah, cool. Okay.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to steer away from politics just because we don't bring it up on the show, but I understand your point.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is I understand why they did that.
Yeah. Again, you didn't I don't think it required that much depth. I understood why they weren't doing that. I was just expressing this kind of outrageous desire, unwarranted. Like, why aren't you doing this for me? Telling me, why aren't you living in shame? Which, again, okay.
Yeah, this town should be uninhabited. Just out of respect. Wait, out of disrespect? Out of principle.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, edit that out.
So anyway, no, I'm not. I didn't mark the time. It's not being edited.
Mark it.
So, and as I established, my other grandmothers, neither of them got driver's licenses. Neither learned to drive. And I just assumed as a kid that grandmothers weren't allowed to drive.
Oh, that's funny.
And then when I found out my friend's grandmother drove, it blew my mind. I thought rules are being broken. I was like, what is this? This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Your grandmother's picking us up? This is not allowed.
That's interesting. So, when did they start to get dementia? As you were an adult or as a kid even? No,
I mean, when I was an adult.
Yeah.
This is the thing. As they got older and my inability to deal with that, outside of the dementia, but just them getting older and getting closer to dying. And I just avoided. I stopped talking to them as much and visiting. Like when I first moved to New York, I would go to Philadelphia quite often and visit my grandparents. I liked going down there. It would hurt their feelings if I stayed in a hotel. Sometimes I would stay at their place. Other times, like, I'm staying at a hotel in the city, but I'll...
It would hurt their feelings?
Yeah, I guess they didn't understand why I wouldn't stay there, but that's just my weirdo nature. I don't like really staying in anyone's house.
Right.
Feeling like I'm imposing or I can't do my thing or be myself or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, neurotic.
Yeah, get over that.
So anyway, as this began, as their deterioration began, or just even with age, I don't know. Do I regret it? Maybe not so much, which sounds shitty. Do I think about what it'd be like if I will be in that position, old at some point, unless I die accidentally or of a disease.
Right.
I think about what it's like to be in that spot and then have people stop talking to you.
Yeah.
So that's where, I mean, I shouldn't say that I don't regret it. The feeling isn't necessarily there. When my grandmother's with dementia, like I don't know how much they picked up on, which is
Right.
weird. It's like, how much of you's in there? You get glimpses of it.
Yeah.
Like you're there somewhere.
Yeah.
But
What's their reality?
Yeah,
of
what
those
is
glimpses?
it? What is it like in your head? And that in its
Yeah.
own right was hard for me to deal with. But see, this is making it about me. It's like, I don't like this, makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't really want to be around this. What about them? What if they can
Right.
still think somewhat clearly and they know that you're not coming around? That's shitty. What an awful thing to do.
Right. So my grandmom, who died in 96, she died in this real sort of crazy way. She was up here in Maryland, and she was like, she had some early signs of dementia. And so all the siblings, were really worried. And there were three siblings living in Georgia that said, let's move her down to Georgia. We'll put her in Lawrenceville because my parents lived in Lawrenceville. All the three siblings lived in Lawrenceville. So let's move her into a house here where we can just be closer and help, like, rotate, who is helping her and looking out for her. So we moved her down, and she was doing weird things. Like, she was buying frozen dinners for her husband, who had been dead since 1981. Like, she was just doing these strange little things. And then there was one evening where we were celebrating my cousin Heather's birthday, and my Aunt Marge had said, like, I haven't been able to get in touch with mom, with my grandma. And it turned into, she got in her car and just drove off. She went, what we suspect she was doing was maybe looking for, there was a McDonald's in Lawrenceville that her new house was close to. And up in Maryland, from the house we moved her from, there was also a McDonald's there. And so we think that she went looking for the McDonald's or something. She was hungry, but she couldn't find it. And then she got lost. And then she just kept driving. And this was all during the Olympics. So it was really weird. I remember her being missing and all of us over at my Aunt Marge's house. And I was just upstairs. My Aunt Marge is like the computer, back then when people didn't know about computers that well, I guess. she was the one that, like, had Photoshop and stuff. So she was making flyers, for her missing mom. And I remember seeing her cry and how, like, whoa, it was a lot.
What were you thinking?
14-year-old self. I don't know. It was just like, man, what is happening? Where is she? Why aren't we finding her? It was like days, weeks. And I remember going downstairs after all of that and seeing, like, watching the opening ceremonies in Atlanta, and it was like this really beautiful sunset. And we were all saying, like, I hope grandma's looking at the sunset right now. And yeah, it was really, really scary. So then, different sets of cousins and aunts and people, were looking for her all around Georgia. And they found her car at the end of a road, and she had groceries in the car. So she had stopped for groceries, and they were suspecting that, like, she was hungry, because she bought, like, sort of treats and strange things that, like, cat food stuff that she didn't have a cat. And then she walked probably, like, through those woods at the end of that dirt road. And she just, like, laid down. She, like, took all her clothes off, which apparently is, like, a dementia thing. She took all her clothes off and laid down. They said her glasses were, like, next to her, like, folded up nicely next to her clothes. And she died. I don't know how she died, but she just died. And then it was the Summer Olympics. It was really hot, and it was difficult, I think, to identify her, stuff like that. It was really a crazy time.
That's awful.
Yeah, what a way. you know, what a way for someone to. I mean, I feel like the dementia at some point like that must be really helpful, because if you have all your faculties, you're like, are you fucking serious? This is how it's going to end? I'm in this woods and I'm lost.
I feel like I
wonder if it must be scary.
It seems like people know, though. Like, I don't know what happened to your grandmother, and you don't want to think the worst of what happened when she lays down. It's a hot summer, and, you know, who knows what comes along with that.
Yeah.
But you know, my grandmother had just died. Apparently she told my aunt that she has dementia, but then she says something in German and says that she's going to die. And that was it. Next day she died.
Really?
So there's something there, and maybe you know, and maybe you just are tired. You're like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. So when I was drowning that time, I remembered being really tired, and the feeling of letting myself drown felt like, I think I've explained this before on the other shows or whatever, but you know that feeling when you're laying down on your couch and you're going to take a nap and you're watching TV and you just turn the other way on your couch and you feel like, yes, this nap's happening. Like, I don't even care about watching the TV anymore. I'm napping. It felt like that. It felt so good to just give up.
You were also physically fighting drowning.
Yeah.
So
yeah, at some point, I guess the relief of not fighting anymore outweighed the scariness of dying. Like the scariness of maybe possibly for real drowning seemed much more appealing than continuing to fight. And I remembered that feeling of like, no, I have to keep fighting. And you know, when people say people are in the hospital and like she's a fighter, you know, like she's fighting to live, or I was like, yeah, that's a real thing. Like you have to fight to not go to sleep, you know, to stay awake, which is really like not die, stay alive.
It seems like your brain at first does everything in its power to keep itself alive, and then maybe it knows, it's like, all right, this fight is not worth it anymore. There's no winning it.
Yeah.
So let's just end it as quickly as possible, and then you get a flood of endorphins in the end. And it's
almost like my body knew, like, you're gonna feel real good.
If you can be so lucky to go that way, then I'm not saying it's ideal to go drown, but I'm saying out of all the ways you could die that are painful, if you can just have your brain flood itself with endorphins and then you drift off, there are probably many worse ways. That was the point in that.
Well, I hope that's what happened with my grandmom.
Yeah, on this, we're ending it on such a happy note.
Yeah.
Which is we can talk about your kids, because your kids are young and your parents are there and they're excited. And little do they know what's to come in life. So let them enjoy these moments in this time.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Before one day they have their own podcast and they talk about such negative things.
Well, I don't feel like it's negative.
Well, it's not negative in the sense that the events aren't negative or the way we're talking about them.
Yeah.
I guess it's negative in that it's a downer.
Yeah.
Which people don't. Maybe those two terms are conflated. Downer and negative doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but you know what I mean.
Listen, without
I'm trying to change
experiences. What?
I'm just trying to not always be so dark.
Wait, how are you offsetting the darkness? By
ending this on a higher note. Your kids are excited.
Okay.
Their grandparents are there. They're going to eat candy to their heart's content.
Yes,
and play.
They are so excited.
Play bubble pop.
Yeah, stupid trolls bubbly pop game on their iPads. Get spoiled by them. All that.
The excitement.
And I'm all for it. You know, my relationship with my parents has really changed as I've, gotten into therapy and sort of changed my mind about life a little bit, maybe a lot of it. And my relationship with my parents has totally changed. So I feel much more relieved when they're here than before. Before, there was like a lot of tension inside of me where, if they're staying for like a week or more, they're staying for a week and a day. And I think that previously, in my previous mindset, I would have it'd have been on the inside of my body, it'd been like a rag that you're just twisting slowly, and it's tighter, and then I can't take it anymore. Whereas now I'm like, that's cool. Whatever.
My previous mindset, going back to when I was a kid, if my
Yeah.
grandparents stayed a week and a half, I'd be really excited. And now the thought of anyone staying a week and a half, it's like, no.
Yeah.
Why? But that's just me. I'm sure you appreciate the help and the kids are happy. So,
Oh, yeah. It's great. It's great having grandparents around. So thanks everybody for listening. Please like and subscribe. We saw some new review, new ratings come in.
it was the highlight of my week.
Yes. Greg was very excited. So make Greg happy and rate and review the show. Please tell your friends about our show if you think it's cool. And anything else? Oh, hot sauce, blah, blah, blah. Hop and pepper. One topic 15.
Sure, they love
50%
that
off.
sell. Blah, blah, blah.
Listen, I've sold it enough and we have a commercial at the end. So love you guys. Go squeeze your parents if they're grandparents and go squeeze your grandparents.
Always
they're
make
alive.
it awkward. You have so many. I counted 6 different outs.
Oh, man. Hey, Greg,
Hey, Autumn.
do you like hot sauce?
You know, I do like hot sauce, but I'm getting pretty bored of my regular Texas Pete or Tabasco. I'm looking for a local sauce without any additives or extracts. A company that uses local peppers so it's as fresh as possible, and a company that really cares about the integrity of the sauce and where their ingredients come from.
Definitely.
And hey, while we're at it, I don't want a sauce with too many ingredients. You know, a lot of other sauces out there, they have all kinds of fillers. So I'd love to find a sauce with, I don't know, let's say no more than 5 ingredients. I mean, it's crazy, but there's gotta be a company out there that hand processes their sauce. You know, bottling and labeling every bottle themselves. I'm probably asking a lot.
Well, you really are, but there is a hot sauce out there who only uses 5 ingredients,
What?
0 fillers, additives, or extracts, and who bottles, labels, and packages everything themselves. It's called Hop Sauce.
What?
They're a small batch hot sauce company out of Chattanooga, Tennessee that's won Best Louisiana-style sauce in the country. How many times? Not once, not twice, 3 times.
3 times!
How does that sound, Greg?
I think that sounds amazing.
You know how you can get your own bottle of hot sauce?
No, tell me please now.
Hoffandpepper.com. And not only am I giving you the gift of the best hot sauce that you'll ever taste, I'm going to give you 15% off if you use the code ONETOPIC15.
Hold on, that's
Yes, get a pen and paper.
1 topic 15.
Good. That's ONETOPIC 15, all squished together at checkout. You'll get 15% off your order and your life will be better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.